Hi guys, my name is SW Miron and I want to thank you for being here. If you found your way to my page, I don't know how you got here, but I'm so glad that you did. This is my very first episode of my podcast, Glass Skulls. I will talk a little bit about the name selection in a little while, but I first wanted to use today as some time for you to get to know me because, for all intents and purposes, I'm just a total stranger on the other side of a screen. So, why the hell should you want to sit with me for 15 minutes a week and listen to what I have to say about mental health? Well, my first name is Stephanie, even though my pen name as an author is S.W. Miron. So Stephanie, Steph, S.W., any of those work. My debut book is called Scenes from My Skeleton Closet. It came out on December 9th through Palmetto Publishing. And it took me a year to write. It was a really, really, really tough project because this is a memoir, so it's a true life story about my life. And the book really dives through each skeleton that remains in my closet after all that's been said and done in my life. So the concept behind the book was to share these little pieces of these skeletons that have been living within me that many of you I'm sure can relate to, but at the same time teach explicit strategies for how to combat these negative emotions, for how to combat, not knowing what to do to make yourself feel better. I've been in mental health treatment for 20 years now, actually over 20 years now. I've had the same therapist for over 20 years now. I take 14 pills every single day of my life, whether I want to or not. I mean, it's the reality of where I sit. I carry a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, PTSD, and functional neurological symptom disorder, which is pretty rare. So throughout my book, I do really crack the egg wide open and leave no stone unturned. Like, I certainly took a very brave leap in sharing so much about my downfalls, my pitfalls, my disasters, my failures, my just all of that stuff. I mean, nobody wants to share about the things that, don't make them proud of themselves, right? Like, nobody's like, "Oh, let's talk about my not finest moments." No. But I knew that I had the vision for this book so that people could feel like they're reading my diary, for one, because the way it's written, I can kind of show you. So there's table of contents. It looks super intimidating because there's 50 chapters, but each chapter is like literally, that was chapter 1, 2 pages. So it's definitely, I feel like people have been saying that it's like a quick read for them because it feels like they're talking to me and it feels like we're just having a conversation. And again, none of the chapters are 25 pages or any really daunting amount like that. Some more about me. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in dance. The dance piece is, I've loved dance my whole life. I've danced for 30 years. I'm currently teaching tap, jazz, ballet, and hip hop to some youth dancers, and that is so, so, so awesome. I look so forward to that every single week. Wednesdays are the best day of the week. You'll hear me say it again. I've said it before, and I will say it again. I'm married to my wonderful husband, Chris. Chris is absolutely one of a kind. I have no idea how I found him. I don't know what I did to deserve him, but he is definitely my hottest homie, if you will. He is my very, very, very best friend, and it's just a bonus that I happen to think that he's the most handsome guy in the whole world. So I don't know. I'm pretty lucky, pretty spoiled, pretty lucky, pretty grateful. family is something that's so important to me. My parents and my brothers in particular, they're pretty much my whole world. Like I don't have like a super big family, and that's okay. We'll get into lots about family and stuff like that. Like it's quality, not quantity. I can tell you that forever. But I keep those people really close to my chest because they've done so much for me over the course of my life, that and they've sacrificed so much that no matter how much I sacrifice, I feel like I'll never be able to return that favor. But I guess that's what family does, right? So I'm just a pretty lucky girl in that way. Let's see. I have 2 dogs. Well, we have 2 dogs. They're our babies. We can't have babies. So this is our way of having babies. We have Hercules Mulligan. He's an all-black German Shepherd. And then we have Zero, who is a Panda Shepherd. So they're pretty cool. They're my best buds. Yeah. So the next thing that I wanted to kind of bring up is I feel like anybody that is a stakeholder in the world of mental health, like you have to have a why. You know what I mean? Nobody is just like, I'm going to go on a crusade to fight the stigmas of mental health. And, you're not going to do that unless you have a why. So I tried to compose my why for you. So this is what I said. The question was, why do I do all of this? Why do I care so much? What is your why? I've spent the past 2 decades battling mental illness, and I've learned so much in my time in hospitals or cushioned chairs in therapy offices. I felt hopeless for a really long time on my journey, but slowly using the strategies started to help. And before I knew it, I finally could get out of bed for the first time in 30 plus days. I want you to think about that for a second. 30 days. Imagine being quite literally trapped in your bed for 30 days. Like you want to get out. You're hungry. You know you need to take a shower. You know you need to go to work. But you can't. That's clinical depression. It's really hard. Really, really hard. But why? What is my why? Because hope is still the most powerful force on the planet. That's my why. If I didn't have hope, I wouldn't have anything. That's the fuel that keeps my fire burning in this shitty world that we live in. So yeah, I mean, these strategies that are in the book, as much as they're ones that worked for me, most of them, I want to take the time to be diving into some of these strategies each week, because you never know how much something so small could totally make a difference in the rest of your life. I don't know. I mean, for example, there's a dialectical behavioral therapy skill called radical acceptance. It's a really tough one for people to grasp, or at least it tends to be. That's something that it took me probably, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 years to be able to utilize that strategy and actually buy into it. But it's just being able to take basically whatever trauma you experienced and be able to say I'm not going to be consumed by you anymore. I'm not going to let you run my life. I'm in charge of my own life. So, yeah. All right, let's talk about where I picked the Glass Skulls name from. So, like I said, my debut book is Scenes from My Skeleton Closet. I've always been kind of obsessed with the metaphor of skeletons in your closet. I love it because I think it applies to every single one of us. I don't think there's a single person out there that could possibly come out of that one unscathed. So as I was thinking about what I could pair with the word skeleton or skull, And I actually did a Google search on, like a Google image search, just like skulls. And I saw these beautiful, beautiful glass skulls. And it was like, boom, it just clicked. Because the thing about glass that I think is so impressive is it can be so fragile that you could hit it off something like the lightest little tap and it's going to shatter, or it's going to crack, or it's going to break. But glass can also be so unbreakable and strong. What a perfect parallel for what I'm hoping to do with you guys, is to teach you some strategies so that you can continue to get stronger and stronger and have the best quality of life that you possibly can have. Um, so yeah, that's where glass skulls came from. There's also this darkness that exists around skulls. Um, that's something, I mean, I wrote about it a lot in my book, but I've spent a lot of time in my life gravitating more toward the dark than the light. And I think that that's okay. Um, but I think you just got to know where to find places to see the light too. Just because if you're only ever stuck in that darkness, then, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the best idea. So, fun fact, when I first submitted my completed manuscript to the publisher of my book, I got some feedback that unfortunately I needed to make a major change to the whole manuscript, which was not a small to do. The ask was for me to remove 55 song lyrics that I had appropriately quoted in the text, and even with that, it doesn't matter. It needs to be like signed off on by the artist singing the song. So I didn't really get to use any of those lyrics or any of those songs. So I thought that one piece of what I would do with Glass Skulls, that I would share some of those lyrics here and there and kind of tell you what they mean to me and like what I was thinking when I picked them for the book. So from chapter 1, this is by MGK. It says, "My head's a mess. It's like that every day. I'll try my best." It's very simple, but it says a lot. My head's a mess. It's like this every day. I'll try my best. Like, what a better promise can you possibly make to yourself? Like, yep, there's going to be times that you wake up and your head's a mess. Or maybe you are more like me and you live in a kind of constant state of your head being a mess. You need to recognize that you have to keep trying no matter how hard it gets, because you have to have that fight. If you don't have that fight, I don't even know what you're doing here. Like, this is for the fighters. This is for the people. Like, I have clawed my way out of the deepest, darkest holes of my life and made it all the way here, despite many, many instances that made sure that I shouldn't be here. So if I can do it, you can do it too. It's a fact, true fact. The only other quote I wanted to share for today is the one that was supposed to go in chapter 2. It says, "Well, I've seen enough to know. Sometimes with the truth, you gotta let it go. I know how hard it is to keep it in, and you asked me." And that's by Dave House. That one I picked, the talking about like seen enough to know sometimes with the truth you gotta let it go, and the way that the guy sings it, it's very like he lets it go, and that I think is the point that I really like so much about those words, was like, you know what, sometimes you like harbor your real feelings, your truthful feelings, just because you don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings, or they're uncomfortable or whatever. You gotta let those go, man. You gotta let those go, because if they just sit there and live there, dangerous. So lastly, I was going to say I'm looking at the time and we're about out of time for today. So I'm going to have to start with this next time. But I was going to talk about the strategy of the day, and I will leave you with this. Next week, we will talk about protecting our peace as our first strategy that we dive into together. And I can give you 2 words as clues to what that conversation entails: family and chainsaw. I hope you have a great night. Thank you for joining me.